Reading book on pausing and money. Written by me, Eric Wadell. First draft, November 2025. Chapter 10. Final thoughts on pausing and money. Throughout this book on pausing and money, we have paused with and studied quite a number of different aspects of the role that money has in our lives. In Chapter 1, we familiarized ourselves with the practice of pausing and found that it is a natural behavior that we all do spontaneously, but also that it can be made into a conscious skill for making breathing space. In Chapter 2, we attempted to make an initial pausing definition of what money is, and found that it is how we quantify, name, physically bind, and frame in words and symbols what is abstract or debatable. Another way of putting it is that we assign a number to, exchange with one another, hold over a sustained period of time, and negotiate for cooperation or deception what is abstract or debatable. In Chapter 3, we looked at the universal skills of pausing, the sort of physical laws of pausing, which grant us a sense of universal logic to making a skill out of pausing with our money. And we found 5 things. First, that we sometimes confuse money with our own body, and that we sometimes treat our own body in the same way that we treat money. This is universal skill, body. Second, that we seem to pause the best with people who make and spend money in parallel with our own speed and direction. This is universal skill, motion. Third, that time can be money, but that time also can be so much more. That time is not only money. This is universal skill, time. Fourth, that we can both feel like money grows in natural patterns, but also like it is separate from any natural patterns of growth. This is universal skill, patterns. And fifth, that at every decision about money, we must make up our mind if the given quantity, name, physical binding, and framing of it feel like the symmetrical half to ourselves that we are looking for. And that when it does not feel like the symmetrical half to ourselves, we feel bad about it. This is universal skill, creativity. In Chapter 4, we introduced the 5 situations of pausing and began our efforts in trying to find an even more detailed pausing definition of what money is, to find better footing in the changing difficulties presented to us throughout life. In chapter 5, we paused with our sleep situation and found that our falling asleep, sleeping and dreaming, and waking up are all affected by the balancing act that we all must do. That we want a maximum amount of breathing space from having money, but that we also want a minimum amount of breathing space being taken away from us by dealing with the logistics of money. In chapter 6, we paused with our acute situation and found that our money becomes suddenly vulnerable when we meet with people that we find physically attractive or scary, and that if we pause and acknowledge that we momentarily lost control, we can avoid the situation from snowballing on us and regain our sense of control. In chapter 7, we paused with our long-term situation and found that we want to pause and try to find the one thing that makes the most sense to us in life. And that if our answer necessitates more money, then we should try to make more money. But if our answer necessitates less money, then we need to find some creative alternative to money. In chapter 8, we paused with our confused situation and found that we will make better use of our money when we also make better use of our confusion, and that we want to build a structure for our confusion so that we do not make the mistake of thinking about money as if it would be a person. And finally, in chapter 9, we paused with our worn out situation and found that money has a dual nature of both protection but also terror to us, and that it has that because it is contested by thousands-year-old societies, institutions and bureaucracies, which we must find our own personal way of relating to. And that we do that by looking for the deeper symmetry which is obscured within the apparent asymmetry. Next, we will bring these findings into our closing discussion about pausing and money, organized under a few subheadings. We want our final thoughts to function as a useful pausing foundation upon which we may stand when entering future times of money. From our initial pausing definition of money to a more nuanced definition. Our initial pausing definition of money was that we pause and find that money is how we quantify, name, physically bind, and finally frame what is abstract. Our initial definition was also that money is how we assign a number to, exchange with one another, hold over a sustained period of time, and negotiate for cooperation or deception what is abstract. So our starting point was to pause and assume that money is created out of what is abstract. This is the key word our whole argument is resting upon. What is abstract? This means that most anything in life that we perceive as ambiguous, unclear, or debatable may be attempted to be made into money. This means that anything on our planet, or even you and I, may be made into money, since we are also somewhat abstract in who or what we really are. Money, thus, seems to be a hot subject, prone to fierce competition. A competition that we may choose to meet head-on or run away from, according to personal preferences. Throughout the chapters of this book, we have studied a number of different aspects of life, as well as situations, wherein we perceive ambiguity, unclarity, or debate. We all hold differences in perspective about our body, motion, time, patterns, and creativity. We also hold differences in perspective about the typical situations in life. Sleep, acute, long-term, confused, and worn out. At every such juncture in life where our own perspective might differ from that of another person, money may both be created and negotiated. This can be an uncomfortable thing to pause with, that for example our body or sleep may be monetized, but it nonetheless seems to be the case. Wherever there is abstraction, someone will think to make money out of it. We then arrive at a more nuanced pausing definition of what money is. We pause and find that money is how we quantify, name, physically bind, and finally frame our body, motion, time, patterns, and creativity, but also our situations in life that are sleep, acute, long-term, confused, and worn out, as well as other abstraction on our planet. Another way of putting this more nuanced pausing definition of money is that money is how we assign a number to, exchange with one another, hold over a sustained period of time, and negotiate for cooperation or deception our body, motion, time, patterns, and creativity, but also our situations in life that are sleep, acute, long-term, confused, and worn out, as well as other abstraction on our planet. With this more nuanced pausing definition of what money is, we will now attempt to build a pausing foundation upon which to stand when entering future times of money.